Hello, everybody. For those of you that don't already know, my name is Sami. I am the Events and Education Coordinator at Goosefoot. So I teach a lot of these classes, run our events and our social media. And I've also been the unofficial tech person as we've adjusted to the new world order for now. If you're not familiar with Goosefoot, we are a nonprofit that does a whole lot of things, but we do a lot of nonprofit support and small business support, and these workshops fall into that. So, as always with all of our classes, I will be recording this and I will be uploading it to our YouTube channel so that the folks who weren't able to make it tonight can watch it later. Same thing with the one from yesterday's class. And one other thing, with all of my classes, this is a workshop, not a lecture. So if you have questions at any time, please feel free to go ahead and ask them. I'm not going to make you hold your questions till the end. I will be sharing my screen with you guys, so it's easy for me to pull up whatever we're talking about. So go ahead and ask those at any time. Outside of that, I would ask you guys to follow normal video conference etiquette. And please have yourself muted whenever you are not actively speaking or asking a question. I know we have a lot of background noise in our lives, so just out of respect and to keep everybody focused and on track, please go ahead and mute yourself whenever you are not actively talking. But again, feel free to unmute yourself at any point to ask a question. So, welcome, welcome. It's nice to see a lot of familiar faces, either folks who have been to classes in the past or folks that were at yesterday's workshop. It's nice to see all of you. We covered a lot of the basics yesterday on the Zoom 101 class, just going and setting up accounts, looking at some of the basic settings, how to use security features, chat, all of that kind of stuff, setting up meetings or just joining meetings. So today we're going to go into some of the deeper features that we probably need the more you use Zoom. For a lot of you, folks that just join meetings that other people are hosting, you might never touch these controls, and that is absolutely fine. But for some of you, hopefully you'll learn one or two new things that you didn't know before. And if you guys have a tip that you've learned from your time of using Zoom, please feel free to share it with the class. I never ever profess to be the fount of all knowledge. You guys all have lived experiences that are a little different than mine. You might have figured out little cheats and cool tricks to share with others. So on that note, we'll go ahead and get into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. Yesterday we had some troubles with a few people not being able to see it. So if you can't, please let me know and I can help you troubleshoot so that you'll be able to see the share screen. So I'm going to go ahead and share my entire screen. All right, thinking about it. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to close off this window for now. That's not what I need. We're just going to look at the main Zoom right now. So as I mentioned at yesterday's intro class, you do need to download Zoom to whatever you're using, whether that is a computer like I'm speaking on right now, or if you're using a tablet or a phone. Anytime you follow a link to join a Zoom meeting, you're going to be prompted to download it. There are some tips and tricks I will show you down the road of ways you can join it on a web browser, but most of the time and most of the tricks I'm going to be showing you, you need the actual browser to do it. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and just start a new meeting so I can get access to these settings because there are stuff that is not available on this intro screen. So I'm just going to go ahead and start a new meeting. It's not actually going to show my face because systems can't share the computer and Google is using my camera right now. So you'll just get this nice blank screen with my name on it in full size. But we went through a lot of these settings on the bottom of the Zoom meeting yesterday. That video should be up either sometime tomorrow or early on Monday. If you have questions and you haven't been to that class, it will be up soon. What we're going to spend most of our time in is, easiest way to get to it is if we just open any of these, either mic or camera, either ones work, and just go to the settings. This is going to open up our advanced settings tab. So I'm going to go down these decently quickly. If I'm going too fast for you guys, or if I cover something, I just kind of skim past something and you want another look at it, please feel free to let me know. So first off, on the general settings, you've got a lot of stuff that you kind of regularly see with programs like this. So you can have it start up automatically whenever you start your system, Apple or Windows. I recommend having this turned off. Unless you have a really powerful system, having programs open on startup can really slow your entire computer down, and it takes more time for it to get open. So I would recommend having this first option here, start with Zoom when I start Windows, have it turned off, and then you can just open Zoom when you actually need it rather than it always being open. Obviously, next one, pretty self-explanatory. When closed, minimize the window to notification area instead of the taskbar. So on my screen, if I minimize Zoom, it drops down here to the main part of the bar at the bottom. If I had that checked and I minimize Zoom, instead it would drop over to this area in the bottom right corner. These options may be different for you if you have a Mac. Sorry, I'm not able to show that to you because I am a Windows person, but they'll be similarly worded depending on what system you have. Next up, use dual monitors. I have 2 screens on mine. That's how I'm running this class. I actually have you guys over here so I can see people coming in. I can see the chat if you guys type anything. And then I'm actually using my first monitor to run this presentation. If I use dual monitors, it's a similar thing. So if I was in a Zoom meeting, with a lot of people, it would be able to take up both monitors so I could see everybody at once. Or if somebody was presenting something and I still wanted to see the people in the meeting, it would use both monitors to do that. Or if somebody was showing me something really big, it could just span across the screen. I don't tend to use this just because I've not been in that many meetings. I think the biggest meeting I've been in outside of these workshops, and I can't usually see your guys' face. So outside of workshops, I think the biggest meeting I've been in has been about 12 or 15 people. You can set it up to enter full screen automatically whenever you're starting or joining a meeting. If you primarily use Zoom on a small device, so your phone or a tablet, something small, that's a great thing to have. Or even if you have a small computer, that's a great thing to have so that it takes up the full screen. Mine is not doing that right now, as you can probably see. You can automatically copy the invitation link whenever you start a meeting. So again, I showed you guys yesterday to invite people. There's a way to copy a link, and then you can go into your email program and email it to whoever you want to join the meeting. If you have that enabled, this 5th option, it will automatically copy the link as soon as you open it. So you can skip all of those steps and just go straight to your email and paste that invitation link. So saves you a little bit of time. I would definitely recommend having this next option enabled. As you can see, I do. Ask to confirm when you're leaving a meeting. This is really important if you are ever like me. Sometimes I accidentally close out of things and I'm like, no, wait, that was really important. So asking confirmation helps me not accidentally kick myself out of meetings. I have to say, yes, I really did mean to do that. Let me leave. You can see connected times if you are worried about how long you're being in a meeting. This is really important if you have the free version of Zoom. As I talked about yesterday, if you have the free version and in a group meeting, you have a time limit of 40 minutes. So if you have it showing your time, you can keep track of, all right, guys, we only have 5 more minutes left, or 3 more minutes, or whatever it is. You can also set up reminders. This is really great. Again, if you're using some sort of a mobile device like a tablet or a phone, you can have it remind you any up to, automatically defaults to 5, 10, or 15. I believe you can also type. So you can have it remind you 50 minutes before an upcoming meeting. If you're at your computer, it's another great thing to do, just to ping you to remind you, hey, this meeting is coming up. I tend to be really good at keeping track of my calendar, so I don't use it, but if you like the reminders, it's a built-in one right there. And then I don't know why you would need this, but you can have it stop your audio and video if your display is off or your screensaver begins. So if you're ever having a really long meeting and you don't touch any controls, it can cut all of your audio and video if you leave it for too long. Obviously, I have it turned off. My computer is set up to not turn itself off when I have video running anyway. But if you're ever worried about battery life, that's a good option for that. And as you can see, there's some nice little skin tones here. It's just a little inclusive thing. As I showed you yesterday in meetings, there's a little emoji so you can react with either like a thumbs up or clapping, even when you're muted. You can set it. It defaults to this kind of yellow color, but you can pick anywhere from like a really pale white to a really dark brown. So there's some options in there. Obviously, it's not everybody, but if you feel like fiddling with it, there you have it. So next up is video settings. Again, if I weren't using this for Google, you would see me in this little gray square at the top here. But this is where you can fiddle with your settings. So I could pick different cameras if I had multiple cameras. If any of you have a tablet or a laptop with a built-in camera and you have a USB one like I do for a better camera, you could choose between the two. I have mine set to widescreen 16:9 because I have a camera that can do that. Original ratio is a little more square. So you can fiddle with that if you care. If you care about what people can see in the background. Enabling HD, again, it depends on your camera. A lot of laptops or tablets with built-in cameras, they just don't have an HD option. I do, and I don't like being really grainy and pixelated on camera, so I have mine enabled. However, enabling HD takes up more bandwidth, so it takes up more of your internet space. If you're having issues with your speed of your meetings, slowing down or getting caught up a lot, you might want to get into your settings and turn off Enable HD. It'll make your video a little lower quality, but it'll make things run smoother in general. I talked about this yesterday, but mirroring video is really important. Most programs default to mirroring the video. It's just a little trick for our brains because we're used to looking at ourselves in a mirror. So if I gesture this way, I want myself on camera to go that way as well, not the other way. But that means if I have like a shirt with words on it, or I'm trying to show off a graphic, it will flip that image as well. So if you ever need it to go perfect and not mirror it, you can turn that off there. So touch up my appearance is just a fun little trick. It doesn't actually, so what it does is it softens the focus of your camera, so it makes you look better, basically. It helps, the camera doesn't pick up so much on any like red splotches you might have or liver spots, or so it softens some of the wrinkles. So it just makes you look a little bit better without having to go through the effort of makeup. There's some settings for meetings as well. I always want to see who I'm talking to. I have it on the Google meeting as well, but I can have it here in Zoom so that I'm seeing everybody's name in the bottom right corner of their video. If I don't want that, if I feel like it's cutting people's faces off weirdly, it's blocking anything in the shot, or if I'm usually only meeting with people I already know their names, I can easily turn that off so that it doesn't show their names. You can have it set up so that it automatically turns off your video when you're joining a meeting, in case you don't want to be caught unawares on how you look. You can easily have that turned off, and then once you're in the meeting, you can choose to turn it on at that point. You can show video. So I have this set up so that when I'm going into a meeting, I get a screen first that shows me my face and goes, do you want to enter the video or do you want to enter the meeting with video? That way I can give myself a quick look, make sure my hair is not doing anything too silly, make sure there's not anything weird or awkward in the background, and then I can go into the meeting. If you're worried about screen space, again, if you're having a big meeting with a lot of people, you can click to hide non-video participants. So what this does is, if you look in the Google window now, if yours is similar to mine, I have about 16 tiles, and everybody's just icons because everybody has their video turned off. If I was trying to talk to people with video and maybe 3 of you had your video on, if I this on, I would only see the 3 people who chose to enable their video, and it would hide everyone else from my screen, though I could still hear them talking. This is really useful, again, if you're having a meeting. No need to give up real estate on your screen to somebody who's not even showing their face. So it's an option if you have a large meeting. You can spotlight your video when you speak. So what this does is it pops up a little bar, or I think it might do a frame around your image on the screen whenever you're talking. This is really important if you want to make sure you're not accidentally adding to ambient noise. I actually use this quite a bit when I'm in meetings with people, so I can say who is the one who hasn't muted their microphone. So I can be like, hey, Freddie, please mute your mic. You're giving us feedback. And then obviously last option is you can display up to 49 people per screen if you have the gallery mode on. That is a lot of people. I think Zoom, defaults to about 16. And then after that, it just tells you there are more people. But you can have up to 49 people on your screen. That works great for me. My monitor is genuinely gigantic, but I know some people who only have like 10-inch screens, and that many people would just be very overwhelming to look at. So you really get to control your settings and your experience. Audio are pretty easy. You can see which speakers you're using. You can see which microphone you're using. If for whatever reason, when you join a meeting, people cannot hear you or you cannot hear other people, you can get into this to figure out what's wrong. You can see my mic is actively being picked up by Zoom. That's what that little blue bar that keeps shooting across is doing. It's picking up my volume. If somebody is telling me that I'm talking too loudly, I could very easily control my own volume over here. I also admittedly have a super fancy USB mic, so I can actually control the sound on the mic itself. But for most of you with built-in mics, you don't have that control. So this is a way to get that control. Same thing with speakers. If for whatever reason your Zoom call is just being way too loud or way too quiet, you can adjust that manually here as well. If you have multiple audio devices, so like headphones or Bluetooth and speakers, you could use it to do different things simultaneously. I'm going to be honest, I don't know why you would do that, but you could. Obviously, I automatically join with audio because that's why I'm in a Zoom meeting. I want to hear people, and usually I want to see them as well. This is a really good thing to have turned on just for courtesy's sake, is to mute your microphone when you're joining a meeting. Again, especially if you come into a meeting late, you don't know what they're talking about, you don't want to be disruptive. I think about it in real life meetings. If you come in just like a couple of minutes late, you're unlikely to come bursting in the door with, hello everybody, it's me, and your phone ringing, oh, don't mind me. No, you're going to sneak in as quietly as possible, get settled, and then give your attention to the meeting and participate when appropriate. So muting your microphone upon joining gives you that opportunity. And then once you can see you have control of your environment, it is appropriate to participate in the meeting, then you can choose to unmute yourself. If I'm using third-party audio, it can ignore the join dialogue option. I won't touch on that too much because the vast majority of you are not going to be using third-party audio. These are processing software that takes your mic and puts it through something else first. So think like auto-tune. If for some reason you were using a program that could auto-tune your voice, that's where the third-party audio comes in. Again, I don't think any of you are doing anything like that. I talked about the press and hold spacebar yesterday. It's really cool. If you have yourself muted regularly, instead of having to click the unmute to talk and then click mute again, you can just hold down your spacebar so that you can talk. Let's see, Tim just asked, is it better to have headphones or earbuds? It really depends on your environment. So, and also the quality of your technology. Zoom is usually pretty good at filtering out your voice so it's not catching a lot of the background sounds, but there are a lot of programs that aren't good at that. So if you If you're not wearing headphones or earbuds, your mic can sometimes pick up on other people talking in the video, and it'll echo really unpleasantly for everyone involved. So that's why I wear headphones, so that if any of you decide to speak up, which again, you're welcome to at any time, it's not going to echo really badly, because I don't know how good the Google is at filtering that out. So I think it's better to wear headphones or earbuds. It is not required if you have good enough technology. But if you're having continuous issues, I would recommend putting them on if you have them. I hope that helped. If you have a headset, I do not. I just have headphones. But a headset is one that also has basically a built-in microphone to it. So you can sync the button. There's a button you can push to talk. If you have sync buttons on headset enabled, then you can use those buttons as well. Let's see. Susan asked, is third-party audio for music or singing? Third-party audio is, like I was saying earlier, it's when you're using a different program to get your audio into the meeting. So again, if you have some sort of program on your computer that can process your voice or alter it in any way, and it's going through that program before it goes to Zoom, that's a third-party audio. If you are playing music or video on your computer, that doesn't count as third-party audio. That counts as system audio, and you actually get that option when you click share. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and go to the share screen options. So when you click share screen, or when somebody else clicks share screen, the default is for it to go full screen with that, so that you can see as much as you are able to from their share screen. If you don't like it automatically going full screen, you can go ahead and uncheck that. I personally have no problem with it. You should be paying attention in the meetings you are in. But if you're a multitasker, that might be a good thing to turn off. Full screen is slightly different than maximize. Obviously, it's not going to show because the settings is taking up. Full screen obviously takes up the entire screen. Maximize just takes up a lot of the screen, but it does let you click off to do other things. You can scale to fit shared content to a Zoom window. So if somebody is sharing something and their screen is bigger than your screen, this option, scale to fit, will scale it down so that it fits on your screen instead of cutting off the edges of whatever they're trying to share you. So I would very much recommend having that enabled at all times. You can enable remote control of all applications. So this is really great if you are working with other people through Zoom. So what that means is when you share a screen, you're sharing a Word doc or some sort of file you can all draw on, or even just a web browser. If you enable remote controllable applications, that means that other people in your meeting that you're sharing screens with, they will be able to do things on your screen. So it can be cool if you're working with other people. It can also be very hard to control and disruptive. So it's really going to be case-by-case basis of whether or not you're going to use that. Side-by-side mode, again, that's what my screen defaults to because it's big enough. But basically what that means is it shows me the shared screen content on one side of my screen, and then I have another column with as many participants as it can show. It's usually about 4 to 5. So that's the side-by-side mode. You can also silence system notifications when sharing desktop. So what that means is if my computer tells me that, oh, I have an update for you, or this program stopped working, and it always does that little boom, my system will cut that out, even if I'm already sharing screen audio with you all. This is really important to me because I find those kind of notification noises really annoying. And also, I don't know if you've ever watched other people in a group meeting, but if one person's computer is making notification noises, every time it goes off, everybody looks around their computer to see if it's their computer that made the noise. So I usually like to have that turned on. Chat is really cool. Again, I showed you that's the chat window. 3 of you guys are using it right now, so you can type messages while people are having the meeting. You can show code snippet if anybody's pasting code. I have this turned off because people should not be pasting code in my meetings. And I don't know any of you that would be having meetings that you would need to show code. And what I mean by code is like programming code. You don't need that in your chats. If people post a link, which I'm going to later, including link preview would let people see a little bit of where they're going. This is really helpful for security reasons, so I would encourage having that enabled. If you leave a chat for a period of time, you can have it changed to away. So if you leave your computer to go do something else, it can let people know that, hey, this person's away for a bit. You can have different settings set up. So dark is usually like black screen with white text on top, and then light is white screen with black text on top. So if one is easier for your eyes than the other, go ahead and go with that. I generally prefer dark screen. That's why I'm a really big fan of the new Facebook setup, because it gave me dark mode. But if you have an easier time with light, this is where you can edit that. You can also block users. So if anybody is messaging you anything inappropriate, this is a great place. You put them on your block list so that even if you end up in a meeting with them again, because it's a large public meeting and you just really hate this person and they get on your nerves, you can block them so that you don't have to see their messages in chat ever again. If you change your mind later, that's where you can get into manage block users and you can unblock them. But I don't think most of you will be using that setting, but if you attend, say, Snow Isle Libraries meetings, which are a lot of people, that's when the blocked could come in handy. Unread messages, you can have them keep the unread messages on top of the screen. You can have it show you a notification. You can move messages with new replies to the bottom of the chat, so you have a control of where things pop up, wherever they make most sense to you. I tend to have start at the first unread, so mine actually start unread at the bottom and go up, because that's where my eyes go first. Google, however, as you guys can see, it starts messages at the top and goes down. So you can fiddle with that if you need to. You can get push notifications. So I know a couple of you, and Marion, I know you've mentioned this in some meetings, whenever that little number pops up that there's a new chat message, I know you can find that really distracting. So you don't have to let it do that to you. It's default set to give you that little number, like you can see up here is this red 1. It's default set up to do that every single time anybody posts anything in chat. But if you find it distracting, you can set it down to only notify you when somebody has privately messaged you, or if they've added you directly. So that means they'll do like the @ symbol in your name, so that it'll definitely get your attention. Or you could just turn all notifications off entirely. So if it's something that distracts you and you don't find any benefit from it in meetings, you can go ahead and turn it off. That does mean you can still click on chat and see those. You're just not going to get that little pop up every single time somebody posts a message. So great control of your space. You could also set it up to notify you of specific keywords. So if anybody uses a specific kind of word or phrase, you can notify whenever that pops up. You can notify of new replies on messages. So if somebody says something and you reply to them, you can have it notify you when they reply to you, or if anybody replies to them as well. You can have it set up to not disturb you between certain hours. So if any of you out there are like me, I have a really hard time controlling my urge to just get more work done. So you can have Zoom, you can either close Zoom out entirely, which is what I do, or you can have it set up to not disturb you between specific hours to help you encourage to step away from work. You can mute notifications while you're in a meeting or call. So if any other programs try to get your attention on your tablet, phone, laptop, whatever you're using, you can have it turn those sounds off until you are done with your meeting so that it's not a distraction. You can show the notification on screen until it disappears. So I know some people, the notification pops up for a few seconds to get your attention and then it goes away. But some people are like, no, I wanted to read that whole thing. You can click this so that it'll stay on screen until you say okay and make it go away. You can also see a message preview if somebody has messaged you before you open the chat window, so that you can see what it is they're saying and determine for yourself if it's worth going into chat. So there's some chat settings. I really recommend playing with these to your comfort level. They are really helpful to control your experience. Virtual background, we talked about this a little yesterday. It is purely fun. You do not have to play with this if it's intimidating. It's just a little bit of goofy fun. Basically, Zoom kind of smartly figures out the borders of where you are, and it will put one of these images, or you can upload your own like I did here, just by clicking this plus icon. So you can add images or video so that they're playing in the background while you talk instead of like your actual room behind you. I know people who do this because they value their privacy, or their house is messy and they don't want other people to know, or they're just having fun. The tricky thing with Zoom, though, is it does its best, but it doesn't always actually tell where the lines are. If I didn't have this ring light, my shirt would be blending into the background really badly, so I would just be a floating head on one of these backgrounds. Marion asked, how do you install a green screen and how is it best used? Green screens are tricky. So if you have your computer set up somewhere where there's just a wall behind you, you could literally just hang a green sheet or a blue sheet. Those are the most common colors of green screens. You can just hang it on the wall behind you. As you can see, my wall is all the way back there, so that's not going to help me. If I wanted a green screen, I would actually need to buy a frame. And they make these. They're basically wire frames that come up on the side, and then there's a top bar, and you can hang the sheet from that. It's basically the same function as a photographer's backdrop if you've ever been to a professional photographer in a studio. That's exactly what it is. So you can get those on frames. It's basically just a sheet. You hang it somewhere behind you. You make sure you have decent light, and you pick, like I said, you pick either green or blue, because we as human beings don't often have those colors in our complexion. Red screens work really badly because most of us have red and pink in our face, and so it'll edit out parts of that, which is very weird. I've seen people with purple green screens, so you can pick pretty much any color you want as long as it is distinct enough and it's a solid color that is very easily edited out. You also don't usually want to go with black because, again, how many of us have black shirts? And then you'd become a floating head. So that's how you use a green screen. And as you can see down here, if you have a green screen, you can let Zoom know that so it can pick up things better. Recording is really helpful if you are doing any meetings or classes and you want to have the recorded file so that you can transcribe minutes later, or just have a public record of your meeting, or if you're like us and you want to upload these to YouTube. You're going to want to record it. Both free Zoom and paid Zoom come with the options of local recording. So local recording means it saves to your computer. This is great for me. I have plenty of storage and I can control where stuff goes. If for any of you that have maybe a tablet that's really close to its memory limit, local recording is going to be really tough for you because videos take up a lot of space. So on the location of the local recording, you can tell it exactly where to save your videos. I think it defaults to your documents file, and then it creates a new Zoom file, and then they'll go in there. But if you want it somewhere specifically on your computer, you can tell it where to save that. You can also choose per video where you want it to save. If you click this first option, every time you end a meeting or end a recording, a little pop-up will ask you to choose where to save the file. I'm going to be honest, I don't know why you would do this unless you're like doing something really heavy and you want to edit the files really well. You can record a separate audio file for each participant who speaks. Don't touch that. I would not recommend turning that on, because then when you edit the video to go up wherever you're going to put it, you're going to have to edit all of those audio files back in together. That is way above most of your guys' pay grade. Again, I would recommend staying far away from that option. You can optimize for a third-party video editor, so something that is not Zoom. If you want to open it up in some kind of other video editing software, you can optimize it so that it'll do that best. I find the regular files to work just fine for me when I'm editing, But if you're a little techie and you know about editing, you could fiddle with these settings a bit. You can add a timestamp to the recording, so you have a little counter at the bottom of what the time is. This is great for finding specific segments if you need them. You can turn on or off record during screen sharing. So I haven't told you guys, but I'm going to have to re-record yesterday's class because unfortunately I was using Windows built-in screen recorder, and it turns off every time you switch what you're showing. So as soon as I switched to sharing my screen, it turned my screen recorder off, and I didn't notice. So I only have the first 13 minutes of that class, and I also have it with no audio. I would recommend leaving record video during screen sharing on. It'll give you a lot less headaches. And also, again, you can place the video next to the shared screen in the recording, just so it changes the layout. You can also keep temporary recording files. So this is really good if you are troubleshooting with Zoom, of like, hey, Zoom, something wrong happened. They'll usually tell you to come in and turn this on so they can help you. Most of the time, it's fine to have it off. And then if you have a paid Zoom account, as I do, you can also record to your Zoom cloud. So I have 1 gigabit of storage. I could record videos there instead of on my computer. Again, as you can see, that's not a problem for me. I have 210 gigabytes on my computer versus 1 gigabyte in the cloud. My computer can take it. But if you don't have much storage on your device, cloud recording is a great way to go. Cloud recording is also much easier if you are sharing it with someone else. So for example, my bosses will record meetings and then they'll send them to me to transcribe. Again, video files are very large, so they can't just email it to me to transcribe. We usually have to use a workaround like some sort of cloud, like Dropbox or AirDrop or something like that in order for them to get me the files. If they recorded it to their cloud, they could just send me the link to that or share me that, and then we wouldn't have to go, up into a cloud and then down onto my system. So, recording options. Profile is really simple. This is just where you can set your picture if you need to. You can change your name. So I know I've been in meetings with some people who have their name and then their preferred pronouns at the end of their name. If that's something you want to add, you can absolutely add that here. And this gives you a lot of the options too of edit your profile, change your subscription, or check out your advanced features. Statistics are fun, but again, I don't know when you guys would use these. It just tells you how much of your memory and your computer processing you're using. So it's there. I don't know when you would use it. Feedback, if you have specific feedback for Zoom, you want them like, hey, I wish you did this, or I don't like this. Go ahead and pop into the feedback tab and tell them. It's never going to get any better unless you let them know what you need. Keyboard shortcuts are super fun. I know a lot of you guys hate clicking around in things. You hate having to hunt to find things. Well, did you know there's an entire list of keys? You can hit a single key or maybe a couple of keys to do a lot of the things in Zoom immediately. So there's a list here. What I was going to do is I have another list of hotkeys, and it actually has it both in Windows and in Mac because I know a lot of you guys have either or. So I'm going to paste that into chat. I thought about going over these with you, but there's just so many, and I don't know about you, but I only remember about like 2 to 3 hotkeys that I use regularly. So take the list, use it as you need to, but it's a great alternative if you don't like clicking around on your screen. Accessibility is really helpful if you have issues seeing or if you have hearing impairments. There's closed captions in Zoom. Obviously, they're not completely accurate, but they're helpful. It's at least a start. And you can set, it's got normal, medium, and large. If you have a hard time seeing, you can make it bigger. You can show your meeting controls. As I said, right now, you kind of have to hover over the screen to get them to show up, or you can tell it to always show up. And then same thing with chat. You can make chat smaller or bigger depending on what you need. So those are the settings within Zoom itself. I'm going to show you guys breakout rooms really quickly. If you are a nonprofit organization or social club, breakout rooms could be helpful. So I'll show you how those work to the best of my ability, seeing as I am in a meeting of one on Zoom. Breakout rooms are just right over under the 3 dots in the more at the very end next to end. This is on my screen. It might be in a slightly different place for you depending on your system controls. Once I go full screen, you can see breakout rooms is right here without me even having to click anything. So if you open up breakout rooms, and again, I will say breakout rooms only shows up if you are the host. If you are a participant or if you are a co-host, these will not be options. You have to be the host of the meeting. So if you are, I know we have a meeting coming up, Marion, where we're going to need breakout rooms. I'm going to have to be the host of that, even though I am not facilitating that meeting. I'm not really participating in that meeting. I'm there purely as the tech person because Zoom only gives these controls to the host. And I don't know if I don't think breakout rooms are available to free versions. So you click on the breakout rooms option and you get this little pop-up. As you can see, it's got 0 participants because, again, I'm in a meeting of 1. If we were having the Zoom meeting with 17 people on Zoom instead of on Google, I would have more options. But you can decide how many rooms. You can have literally as many as you want. I think up to 40, or is it 20? It's one of those two. It depends on your paid level. I think you'd have up to 20 rooms. So you set how many rooms you need. And then you can tell it whether to automatically assign people to various rooms, or you can pick manually so you can choose where people go. I'm going to go ahead and click manually so you can see more options. You can absolutely switch between later. So when you click create rooms, now you can see here's the rooms. You can name rooms. If different rooms have different purposes, you could name them if you want. You click on the assign button so that you can drag people into the room that you need them to be in. And you can't set this up ahead of time. You have to set it up once the meeting has launched. So if you're doing breakout rooms, I recommend either, again, having someone like me who is there hosting but not participating, so they can only focus on this, or setting it up in advance. And by how I mean you do that is you launch the meeting maybe 15 minutes ahead of time and go ahead and set this up while you're waiting for people to come in. So there's your options. You can add rooms. You can remove rooms if you need to. As you can see, there's delete here. There's add down here. I will get into options in a second. You can also recreate the room. So say you want people randomized in rooms on the first round, and then you're going to go into breakout rooms and you want to randomize them into different rooms on the second round. You need to recreate the room. So what this means is it's going to close all of the rooms and start new rooms based on your existing settings. So this is really important if you want to change people's rooms later, or if you just want to switch a couple of people. Again, if people were actually in this meeting, I would be able to show you this. You could either just physically drag them to a different room, or you can swap them with somebody really quickly. Those controls are all on screen and very easy to understand. The options, I think, are very important. Once you've set up the rooms and where people go, you need to get into the options. So you can move people into move all participants into breakout rooms automatically. So when you're ready, right now, how I have it is when I'm ready, I'll click open all rooms and it'll push people into there if I have move them in automatically set up. Otherwise, I'm going to have to manually push people in, and that's so much work. You can let people return to the main room at any time. If you want to keep them in their rooms for a specific amount of time, make sure you click that off. You can set up to close the rooms after a specific amount of time. This is what I've seen the most often of this used, of like, all right, we're going to send you off into your breakout rooms for 5 minutes. So make sure you set this clock from 30 to 5. It's not highlighting. There we go, 5. Make sure you change that before you actually send people off. You can have it notify you when time is up. And then you can have it set up so that it'll give people a countdown that the room is about to close so that they will wrap up their conversation. I've been in some where breakout rooms, you're just all of a sudden back and it's very disorienting. So I would recommend giving people a countdown. Okay, Okay, let's see. Marion asked, how do you set up co-hosts? So in participants, again, this is hard to do because I'm the only participant in this meeting, but if you open up the participants panel, you'll see everybody in it, and you can go to more, and if I wasn't the host, or if I was clicking on someone who wasn't me, I would have the option to make them the host, make them a co-host, or a couple of different roles, or I could also kick them out of the room. So that's how you do it. You open up participants and then click on them. I'm not going to rename myself. Yeah, exactly, Marianne. A lot of Zoom sessions have a tech person specifically to do the role so that everybody who's there for the meeting can just focus on the meeting. All right, so those are all of the settings and tools within Zoom itself. I'm going to show you guys a couple of tricks on the website. I don't know if you've been to the website, if you have an account, but there are some settings you can only do through the website, not your actual Zoom platform. So I'm going to do this a little quickly because I didn't realize that would take me that long. I'm going to go ahead and end meeting for all. All right. And then I'm going to quit Zoom so it's not taking up my screen anymore. And we're going to go to zoom.us. So this is your Zoom website. If you weren't logged in or if you need to sign up, those options will be over here at the end. I obviously already have an account and I'm signed in, so I can just go to my account immediately. Again, this is where you can fiddle with your profile settings if you don't feel like doing it in your system itself. It's also just nice to see, remind you of what options you have. So it'll tell you how many people you can have in your meeting room. I also have the webinar add-on so that I can have webinars, which are a little different than meetings. I'll talk about that later if we have time. It'll tell you your capacity, your language, your time zones. So you can see these things weren't in the program itself. It's automatically set up to just detect whatever your computer is. But if for whatever reason your computer settings are different or wrong, or you want to say you're in a different time zone, you could change that. You can set it up so that it'll automatically connect with one of these 3 calendar options, so that anytime you set up a meeting or agree to a meeting, it'll pop up automatically in your calendar and you don't have to do the work yourself. It automatically generates a sign-in password. Sign-in password. If you need to change your password to access your account, you can do that here. It automatically generates a host key. So that is your ID. It's for security. If you wanted to change that for whatever reason, you could do that here. Two-factor authentication. So this is where it will send you an email or a text in order for you to prove that you are you. If you are worried about somebody hacking your account, it's a great option to turn on. If you are worried that somebody has already hacked your account, you can always sign out from all devices, change your password, and then you have control of your account again. So that is absolutely an option. Meetings. You can see I don't have any meetings scheduled. This is if I had set up a meeting to join with somebody else. If I added users, which I can do down here. So these are my contacts, people that I regularly meet with, and they invited me to a meeting, that would show up here as well. I usually just use my own calendar and emails, but if you wanted it to all be in one place, you could absolutely do that here. You can also see my past meetings. I have 3 meetings. I have a lot of webinars. I can set up personal room settings, so I can name my room if I want. There's my meeting ID, so when people can log in with that ID rather than a link. I can, once again, connect to a different calendar. I have it default set to host off and participant off for videos so that people have to turn it on when they get into the room. You could change that if you wanted to. And you could also control where people could log in audio-wise if you wanted to. Polls are fun. If you have people sitting in a waiting room waiting to get in, or even in your meeting, you can set up polls so you can ask people, how did this go? Do you... it's not open-ended polls, unfortunately. I don't think you can ask people. Yeah. Actually, you can. So people can choose multiple choice or single choice, but they can't type in anything. So if you want to be very guided of like how they can answer questions, polls are absolutely an option. A lot of fun. I recommend playing with it. I don't know anybody who does use these, but if you want to, it's there. And then meeting templates, again, I don't really use. You have to get into a previous meeting and edit it. And then you can set up what do you want the name to be? What do you want the description to be? Do you want it to be a recurring meeting? Is registration required? So all of these settings you can set up so that anytime you set up a meeting, it saves all the same settings so you don't have to do it over and over. So next up, I'm going to go to webinars. Again, this is a tool that I have. I am the only one in my organization that has this. I haven't been to webinars by other people. Webinars are different from meetings in that a meeting like this, everybody can participate. Everybody can be on camera, everybody can be on audio, everybody can chat. I can control those to some degree, but it's a little bit more equal. Webinars are like I am the instructor, you will listen to me. So I'm the only one on screen. I'm the only one with access to audio at all. Everybody has to use the text chat unless I enable them to have audio. And it also gives me some cool things like polls and Q&A, which do not exist in the regular meetings. If you're meeting with people and they can verbally ask stuff, just stick with that. But if you want to have a little bit more control or you're having a really big public meeting, webinar is absolutely a tool. So let's see, I'm a couple questions behind. Tim asked, how do you change an invite? So there's a couple of ways. If I had a meeting already scheduled and somebody invited to something, let's set it up for, I don't know, Saturday at 7 p.m. for an hour. Great. And then I, sent off the link to somebody. And then I realized, oh no, I did this wrong. If I'm back in my meetings list, and same thing, it actually shows up on my Zoom client. There we go, if I click meetings, it shows up here, or you can be on the website as well. And you're like, oh wait, it wasn't 7 p.m., it was 7 a.m. I didn't even notice that. All you have to click is edit, and then you can get back into those settings, change what you need to, save it. You don't need to resend the invitation because that same link that was already generated is still that link to that meeting. You only really need to send a notice if you need to let the other person know, hey, I messed up, it's actually at this time, or these are the details. But you can easily make those changes without having to resend anything if you verbally told somebody something and then accidentally set it up in a wrong way. So that's how you edit. I'm going to go ahead and delete because I'm not meeting on Saturday at 7 a.m. Pam asked to do a poll. You have to go into settings every time. No. If you set up a poll once in your personal meeting room, that poll will launch every time you use your personal meeting room. That poll will be available. So set it up once and then you never have to set it up again. It's there. Webinars, however, you do actually have to set those up every single time if you have polls there. So webinars are also really cool because instead of sending people links like I have been to you guys, it actually gives you a sign up page so you can post on your Facebook or your website or wherever you're sending out the news, and people can click on that link and go to a Zoom page and sign up for the class without having to email you like you guys did to me. The reason I had to do it this way is because we had to use something not Zoom so that I could show you guys Zoom. But if you've been to our classes in the spring, that's why you had a sign up page, because I was setting up as webinars and not as meetings. So that's a cool option for webinars. Is there a difference in poll options between a regular account and a webinar account? I'm going to be honest, I don't know. Only because I haven't ever actually used the polls in a regular account. So I don't know how those look. I have used polls for the webinars, and I have to set them up in advance in this backend online in advance. But then once I'm in the class, I have a polls option and I can click it and I can launch the poll at any time I want and I can close it. I don't know how they work in the meetings just because I haven't actually had a poll in a meeting. So sorry, I'm not able to answer that, but I don't know. So yeah, a lot of the same settings as meetings, but you have a little bit more options. You have practice sessions, you have Q&A. You can automatically record the webinar so you don't have to remember to hit the record button. You can set up alternate hosts in advance. So I can say these people are also hosts. You can also, once you have it set up, I think you have to schedule it in advance first. But once you schedule it in advance, you can actually have other options so that you can set up presenters. So you have panelists, and you can put in their bios, their descriptions, pictures, any information you want to share about them. So this is really great if you have a guest speaker. If I had this set up, again, if I had this set up in advance, if somebody actually went to this link, no, I need the registration page. I'm going to change that to registration required, automatically approved. I can set, there's a certain number of people who can register, close the registration after a specific date. I can set all of those settings up in advance. And then now that I've got it, where's my registration link? There we go. So now, if I go to the registration page, I've actually edited a theme on mine, so it actually shows the Goosefoot logo on top, and it has our description of our organization. And then down below, it has the name of the website or webinar, the description of the class, what time it's at, and then it gives this standard field where people can put in first name, last name, and email address. So I like the registration page. However, I will be honest, the webinar edition costs $400 a year. So unless you are doing something like this regularly, I don't know if I would recommend people use it. For small meetings that happen here on the island, meetings are more than enough. So you could absolutely stick with that. Recordings is where you can see all of your recordings if you have saved them locally or in the cloud. So I can absolutely pull up all of these videos I've recorded before. And then settings, a lot of these are very similar to what is in the settings I showed you earlier, but there are some more specific ones. First off, I'll show you, you can turn off the waiting room so that when people join a Zoom meeting, right now it defaults to putting people in a waiting room and you have to admit them. You can turn that off. I don't know if I would recommend it because Zoom has had issues because it's been so popular. A lot of people have been hacking into meetings. Which is why they turn that on automatically. But if you really hate it, if you're really bad at remembering to admit people, you can turn that off. You can also add them to your contact list, and then you can click users that are not in your account. So if you have board that you regularly meet with, add them to your contact list, which is right here. You can add them. And then if they're in that list, you do not have to manually let them in. They will automatically be admitted to the meeting. Or you can also set up specific domains if that's a thing for your organization. You have passcode set up, so people have to have a password. As you can see, I have it, I think it's farther down. The password's embedded in the link so that nobody has to type it in. But you can turn off meeting passwords. I will again caution, the more options of these you turn off, the more you are leaving your account vulnerable to somebody else hacking into it. So if it really annoys you, if you just don't get it, you have the option to turn it off, but you are opening yourself up to more and more risk of being hacked by somebody that might hijack your meeting in a very unpleasant way. So these are all security options here. When you schedule meetings, you can start with video on. Again, you saw that in the settings in the client itself. Same thing with audio. You can let people join before you join. You can set up a personal meeting ID if you want something specific. This is, again, more security. You can mute people on entry. All of these you saw earlier. You can allow people to have the chat, or you can turn it off if you don't want them to. You can stop people from saving chat. This is really important if it is a private meeting and you've ensured people that people aren't going to be able to walk away with stuff. You can turn this off so that people can't save the chat without you realizing. You can let people private chat or not. If you're, one of those teachers that you're share with the class, you can turn off private chat if you want to. You can automatically save chats for every meeting that you go in. It'll automatically download a text file of any chats that happened. You can have it notify you by audio if anybody leaves or joins. People can share files if you want, or you can turn that off. No, please go away. Again, you can ask feedback to Zoom. You can display an end of meeting experience feedback survey. So this is really exciting. It's basically just a thumbs up or a thumbs down. They can tell you, and if they do a thumbs down, they can tell you why they didn't enjoy the meeting. So it's an automatic survey that pops up. It only sends you info if they didn't like the meeting, so that hopefully you can improve your meetings in the future. And again, this is under settings, display end of meeting experience feedback survey. You can add co-hosts. You can do polls. You can always show that toolbar at the bottom that lets you control your meeting. You can show Zoom windows. I should have turned that on, then we could have had this class on Zoom. But I was actually concerned that it wouldn't show you all of the controls because it doesn't on Zoom. It actually hides that during screen share. You can control who can actually share their screen. It defaults to host only, and you can change that once you're in a meeting in the security tab. Right, I showed you guys that yesterday. Or you can just default to anybody can share. Annotations are great. If people want to like write on the screen and add contribute. Whiteboard is great. Everybody can draw. Fun to do with the grandkids. You can remote control again so that people who are sharing, other people can control their screen. Nonverbal feedback is those emojis we showed earlier. So you can see there's a lot of little options in here. We're a little bit over time, so I'm not going to go line by line in these. I just wanted to show you guys there's a lot of settings in here that are not available just on the Zoom client. So go ahead and check out zoom.us, sign in, go to your settings and see what sort of options there are. You can sign interpreters. So there's a lot of really cool options. So, play with these. So on that note, like I said, we're a little over time. I've talked about polls and Q&As. Oh yeah, one other thing I wanted to show you guys. Zoom has a lot of extensions that you guys might not have known of either. I need to go back to the Google window. So you can set it up so that it'll save you a lot of time. Anytime you create a meeting in Zoom, you can have it set up so that it'll automatically save to your calendar. It'll automatically open up an email so you can know who to address it to. So I'll again paste this link into the chat as well. But there are a lot of plugins that work with Zoom, so that'll help you do things faster if you have any interest. So on that note, I'll go ahead and wrap up here. I apologize for being a little over time. There's just so much little stuff in Zoom that most people just don't know about. So if anybody has questions, you are welcome to go ahead and unmute yourself and ask them. Pop them in the chat. Let me know. Thoughts, anything like that. Let me know if you guys can hear me still, because last time I turned this off, you guys couldn't hear me.
Yep, can hear you.
Hooray! Yeah, last time I ended sharing yesterday, it just cut off my audio. So I'll give you guys a few more minutes if you have any questions, but in the meantime, I just wanted to remind you guys, we did a whole slew of marketing, social media, online sales classes, a lot of really cool classes. We did them back in the spring. And the nice thing about doing these over video chat instead of in person is we now have recorded them and uploaded them to our YouTube channel. So if you either search Goosefoot Community Fund on YouTube, or if you go to our website and under events, there's a link to the recorded videos. You can go ahead and check any of those out at any time. And on that note, we are also offering one-on-ones with me. So if any of the subjects we have covered videos about, anything on our YouTube channel, or even some of these Zoom webinars right now, if you guys would like to talk with me and get personal one-on-one help, it's absolutely free. You get 30 minutes with me. If you are interested in that, please go ahead and email me, sammy@goosefoot.org. I'm happy to help you guys with anything I can. And on that note, again, I will either open up to questions, or you guys are welcome to head out if you need whatever you guys need. I'm at your disposal for the next 10 minutes. Glad you guys enjoyed. Thank you, Jan. Thanks, guys. Thanks for being a great audience as always.